Thanks, Robinson. So this report does not reflect any impact of the announcement of additional social care funding that was made last week. And we will not know what our share of that additional funding is until we get the final local government settlement, which is normally shortly before we set the budget and tax for the following year. So this is based on the provisional settlement that we had back in December. But we are expecting more funding. As for whether we would then not have an adult social care reset, that's honestly still for discussion. My advice to members would be that we maintain our tax base as far as we can, because if we do not charge an adult social care reset and the maximum amount of council tax in the referendum limit, the impact is felt not only in the next financial year, but in every year thereafter. So if we were to not raise an adult social care reset next year, or have a lower council tax increase, you have some cumulative impact of that. And also the other issue that we need to consider is the amount that we are proposing to draw down from reserves to complete the budget next year. So you need to put all those factors in the round. But no decision taken yet. I think Councillor Robinson, can you press your microphone?
Sorry. I don't understand what this is, John. What it really is, government initiatives for social care. And we've got that on the reset, and it's about the same amount of money. That was a question. But I want to ask you about the services you mentioned, because we have one with the I don't want to ask you specifically about that. What I want to ask you is how are we going to do this? This is a plan to do this.
Can I just take that, because that's sort of a political question first, and then you will take it. I think it's important to realise that we haven't touched our £50 million general, not retouched. So over the last 2 years, we've been building up reserves to help match fund the significant investment which we have had in the council. Without match funding, we will not be able to pull down on the So we are utilising that kind of extra money that we've been saving very prudently for the climate that we have today. But that's the main point. So when we talk about reserves, we must remember that we haven't touched our general reserves and have no intention of doing it.
Yeah, just to finish off the point about the adult social care reset first. The additional costs and pressures that we have built in for social care far exceed the amount that we will be proposing to raise in an adult social care reset, plus any additional funding that may come to us through this additional funding that has been announced. So it would be self-defeating, I suggest, for us having lobbied government for additional funding, to then say we're going to use that additional funding not to have an adult social care reset, because it still doesn't touch the sides in terms of the overall pressures on our children's and adults' budgets that they haven't fund. And then as far as reserves concerned, it is quite right. There are no proposals to touch our general fund balance, and we will still be well within the target range for the reserves that we look to be 5 and 7.5% of our gross revenue budget. We have gone down from reserves quite heavily in recent years because we've had cost of living and post-pandemic environment that we've had to navigate. And you're all aware of the really significant impact on the council's finances of much higher payrolls, energy prices, interest rates, you know, and also, you know, we are seeing the impact of very tight supply markets. We've seen that in the capital programme, but we're also seeing that in relation to a number of other things. So we are not using reserves to fund recurring expenditure. That would be particularly responsible in terms of to our use of reserves policy. But we have built up those reserves over time precisely to give us the ability to weather these really adverse conditions. But reserves are finite, so we cannot continue to do that indefinitely. And that's the really important point. You know, and at some point we will need to start to build up reserves again, but this is not the time to particularly given that we have no visibility whatsoever of what our funding settlement is likely to be in 2025, 6 years. Yeah, but that will be the subject of a very detailed additional report which I will be bringing to council alongside the budget report, because I'm required to submit a statutory report on the adequacy of reserves and the robustness of the estimates. So it will be a more fulsome report and a standalone report this year, you know, because I'm well aware that there are concerns about the sustainability of our reserves.
Thank you, John. Well, that's good. I'm sorry to keep going on this, but it's something I do support, but it looks to be 8.76 million over 5 years. And we were told 17 to 32 grand, we were told 7.20, right? And we were told, we said the last thing, we want to get top 10 possible. What I want to ask you is, possibly, I think it will be a little ambitious.
Well, can I take that first? We have got to make this work. You get to various reasons, the actual proactive determination stops. This time it works because we have got to make it. We've got to. Government is a business effect. I'm of absolute confidence in Jan and the chief executive who are driving this, that we will make it work. I know it was stressful, ambitious, but I don't worry about it.
Thank you. Does that complete your questions, Councillor
It
Robinson?
doesn't, I've got another couple
Okay, do you need to bring the rest of the
pretty quick. I'll save the other ones for later. Capital programme. It's when you go into complete overhaul, you're going to be there's little bits of gap. But when can we see the fully worked out? When will they be able to say that?
Can I just this passive program has come up before sort of the if you look at the size of the program now compared to when but and I don't want to be political here. Some of the capital funds, capital borrowing, capital spending is around investments that were made some years ago. And so we will be but in the meantime, I think it's worth putting in context of that capital program is is actually in terms of gearing is actually
It was more about the way it's all out, which I think is the same way. actually delivered.
Yeah, so that's what, I think you're referring to some of the discussions that we've had about how we actually manage and deliver the capital programme, not what's included in the capital programme. So I think there are two aspects to that. The first is that we want to move to a 10-year capital programme because we need a longer planning horizon, given how long it takes to deliver some of these projects. And the other is looking at the issue of delivery over programming and slippage, because we have had a history of really significant slippage. So there is work which is being undertaken on those issues, and I hope to bring something back to later in the year. So internal audit are doing some work at the moment on waiting for their report. But having said that, we've made a start on the slippage issue. So as part of this year's process, we have looked really hard at the spending profiles and trying to make sure that we've got something a bit more realistic. So I hope that we've made a start, and things will improve in terms of being able to see, but we still have work.
Championship one documentation because I'm
So these are historic sort of legacy payments that we have to make as staff ex-staff die, we no longer need to make those contributions. So over time they reduce year on year and we eventually disappear. So this is affecting that.
what about the year the not charges very quickly? The increase part charges in the budget. Is that only the part you've got now? If you want to do another?
There are no plans to introduce cancer. There is an item within the budget around which is regression. That one has not been. We're not very good at it. If that's the one you're talking about, yeah. So if you're referring to the is that the one that you're talking about? The 11,000 and 12,000 in 2 years? Yes, that's the one. That's the one in bracket. Okay. Yeah.
Now let's question and getting off the solution to line.
That's a good question. Because I can't. I can't do that. But how I know you're going to have that. They're looking at that, especially we've got family office and they're working really well, so that could help you. And we've got that might be, we can get you a good answer for that. Ah, really?
Well, so that there isn't any formal solutions made as yet. We want to have full communication and communication with residents and stakeholders. Then like to check.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Austin. Councillor Wood.
Thanks, Chair. Right, okay, first of all, on page 21, recommendation. If this is still a consultation phase and we're being consulted about what the budget should look like, why are we just being asked to know new date? Why is it something about having the assumptions or input some of our ideas? For a very, very important item to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words, I think it's a bit difficult. But anyway, let's just talk about a couple of things in the budget, because that's why we're here. But I must just mention efficiency. If you are charging somebody more for exactly the same thing, surely that's an inefficiency rather than efficiency. So if nothing's happened in the car park, and all you're doing is putting the charges up, that is not an efficiency. So,
Do you want to take that one first?
in future, could we separate out what you think are efficiencies and what we would call increase in fees? Just the first question.
Before I go on that question, Alison, can I just, I think we must have this one last step.
The chair, if you go back to one of the YouTube, so you can see that all I'm doing is people I've said over the last 5 years. All right?
That's just Alison.
I think if we go back on that, we find give me the question that when other illustrations on the go. Nevertheless, as I've already indicated, the car park one is the one that you're, the point that you're describing around non-efficient, it costs money to do the process. It costs money to have to start to do it. So in order to help pay for those stuff, it isn't but they're trying to do it. But that's why we say it's really
Okay, next, is 25. And we've already heard 151 of us say if you can't be firm about anything past 25. So why is 26, 27, 27, and 28 written down as firm figures?
If you're required to have a meeting, this is how best estimate what those examples. We brought forward firm proposals, more detailed proposals for balancing the budget in 24, 5, and 26. But it, but the council needs to have what it's like going to be for you know, for the following 2 years at least, in order to put those budgets. So it's the best that we can do.
I don't doubt it, yeah, but it's not what you said. That's all I'm saying. And this is, what we're here today to do is pull through some of this stuff. So, what you should have perhaps said is that this is what we're firm about, but I have to make assumptions about 26, 27, 28, rather than say, I've got no idea when you obviously have 15. Well, that's fine. Can I just ask?
I think that's what the report does say. I was referring specifically to government funding settlement. Clearly, there are lots of other components of the project that is the my element. So I was referring specifically to government funding element, not that I don't have any understanding of what the other costs and income that make up our overall budget are likely to be in those 50 years. Just clarification.
I'm absolutely certain you do, and I'm very confident in you that your projections are hitting around where they'll be. But, so, in here, as far as I can see, I'm absolutely quite able to take any criticism if it's written here somewhere and I haven't seen it. But there's no mention how much you propose the council tax to go up. Now, before you say what we haven't decided yet, you've made assumptions right across the whole. We've got pages and pages of assumptions. So why in here somewhere in big letters is there not a statement? The administration intends to put up the council tax by X, and regardless of how much money we get from the government, we intend to put together the social care thing up by Y.
the answer to that is that we are working on the draft budget and you need to make certain you remember when we were, one of the assumptions we have to take is that if the standard for local government is going to be bigger that we are going in, then we've got to be that. I can tell you that we did look at an early stage look at another way. If I'm finished, and I'm not in my box going to allow us to lose year of income from settlement of government who chose to have a lower council tax rate until I hear from residents that is absolutely definitely what they want. And the indication so far is that it's not what they want. They like all the services, all the frontline services, everything else they get for their money, they like that. And too much changes, that's what they want. I get what you're trying to get that, and of course I understand that. It's very much the same as the system that you use, and you will be there.
Well, my administration didn't understand that for years. Let's not think about that. This is about the future. And all I'm saying is, you made all sorts of assumptions, but nowhere here. Why have we not got a statement in here 5.12 that says we're assuming we think the council tax needs to go by 2.99%, and the adult social care precinct needs to go by. That's all I'm asking. You assumed everything else. Why haven't you faced that?
And I think it's very. You have to start. I don't think there's anything involved with asking that next year.
Thank you. I'm somewhat struggling here. My question actually comes to a friend of you referred to a potential figure there that you were potential in. What was it? What is it? That's all how it is.
See what each percent will bring you in terms of and so you can work that out.
We don't want to work it out ourselves. I want to see how much the administration spends on our council tax. That's all I'm asking for. It's not here. Sorry, Chair, I'm just getting there. Let's go your last block.
There was an earlier report which set out all of those assumptions, made it clear that we are budgeting on the basis of 2.99% council tax increase and a 2% adult social care increase. So that information was included in an earlier report, and what this is doing is updating the figures of the provisional finance settlement and setting out in draft form the details of the balancing measures that we're proposing to take ahead of Cabinet, a further report to Cabinet on the 13th of February that will bring all of this together and with all of the supporting detail and the 18 or 18 appendices that you're all used to seeing. So it's just reflecting the and the other thing that I'd remind you is that we have had 2 all-member policy conferences on the budget, including one in the early autumn where we talked through all of the underlying assumptions. So perhaps we take your point that it's not explicit in this report, but this is building on a series of reports and briefings that members have already had. And I think those underlying assumptions have been there.
Thank you.
So, can I just say, I think at that point, we're working on 2.99% increase in tax tax with the state of social care.
Which is a 5%.
Yeah.
Point that.
And I do believe as well, I'm sorry, but I do believe that has been written in this report. Yeah. In this one, so that's this thing at this point going forward and that becomes very continue.
Yeah, thank you. You know, here's one of the usual, I just think there's still too many reviews. Nail it down before we get here. And if anybody cares to look at this document, you'll see that the predictions are kind of in and around, but they're not, you know. So I understand that difficult it is, and I can do a job for in the world. You know, you haven't gone through all of that training and all those grades, and that's what it is like me, you know, trying to find goals in it. It must be very frustrating. But anyway, just on page 31, the very second time of taking 3 million quid out of the individual package. How did that work with packages? I mean, I haven't seen the, you know, the budget outturn so far, but the big program, 3 million pounds. So I just wonder where we were. You know, how close to that 3 million is a long distance.
Yeah, have you brought in who take that question?
We have the overview is really cost in there. There was legacy brought forward COVID into that, and made those costs clear for after
Somebody now explain to me.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. You're making noise, Glenn. Could somebody explain to me when we can take out £3 million a year for 3 years, 9 million quid? And I know you said it's to protect the budget, but we're saving £3.63 million in that. And yet we're still putting the adult social care precept up by 2%. I'm a bit lost. But can you explain to me, if we've saved all this money, why do we need banging up the adult social?
Well, some of that is due to demographic growth increasing demand, but it's also increasing cost. So the inflation on our residential care budget for adults alone, £13 million. I go back to the point I made earlier, which is, the adult social care concept and the increase in social care, which is not just adults, it's also for children, where we have some really intense pressures, is nowhere near matching the actual amount of additional cost that we have to fund.
I think absolutely cost pressure are enormous for inflation. We are in minimum wage and minimum wage increases, the costs are increasing exponentially. Yes, yes. Joint addition going in far and base.
Okay, thanks. I'm very honest. Yeah, I'm very finished. I mean, I could go on all day, but I'm all day. So, we're on page 32. I know you still well. Page 32. And I remember, sorry to hop back, but I remember, what you believe it was out there at the time. We were all over the people going on about how the later part was going to be to transport charges, and how dreadful it was, and how the Conservatives, the collective, would never reverse it, nor as that. But yet here we are. So how can the leader justify not providing concessionary schools?
Well, that is actually down to the answer, but we're not. We are not. This is a which we corrected by the order of funds which we could use for and we had talks with them. It was reasonably along the road, but we were going forward with compromise. Everyone put the contract there. There is no cap. I said that. There is no cap. So there is no cap. Efficiency. And you like that word. So efficiency. Not like or do you actually
Yes, also,
You're exactly right. So our plans work with colleges and students programs. And we have a lot of young people who need the county in particular for their education. So we want to be able to support our local FE college. We're working with our local FE college, they're really strong and successful, as well as ensuring our young people are able to access courses, careers, and needs in life. It is now working very closely with all of the local colleges, North Tyneside, in Gateshead and Newcastle, as well as the inconvenience for that. Access their funds, college goals very important is concerned about. So it's not a fund that they're able to absorb, and therefore we want to be able to maximize the and make that work.
Then, and I suggested that line is rewritten to respect the actual thing rather than what it looks like when you read it. And I could go on, but I won't, because I know everybody else.
Can I just clarify, constantly, are you talking about the line that says all your effective municipal transport? Because I think what Audrey.
4 year effective rules of school transport.
Yes, I think what Audrey was describing was the line further down about post 16 municipal transport.
Yeah.
So that line and the one below is about the 4 year effect of a decision that was taken last year to increase the admin charge for municipal transport, concessional travel. So it's the implementation cost because it comes in September, 1 year ahead. So the decision was taken last year, and this is about reflecting the financial impact in this.
Okay. So, just again, we're charging people to get through performing the things that you're doing again. But anyway, let's move on to the last couple of things I've got, which is, I think the only, I'm now in the capital program, you'll be glad to hear. I think this is page 30. I think the only person who is all worried about this great Northumberland court. And I realise it's external funding, it's $2 million. I don't know, 5, 7 or 8 and 9 lines down. Great Northumberland Forest, 2,135,000. And I realise it's external funding, lovely and wonderful. And underneath there's another line that says storm harm and recovery, 250,000, which is again external funding, which would be great. But there doesn't seem to be any political oversight of that. I don't know. There's £2 million being spent on something that I don't think any of us know anything about. There needs to be some political oversight of that. Somebody is spending £2 million government money in the county, then there doesn't seem to be any reference to us at all. So, especially if we're in control of it, I think we should have something about that. And the last thing is, you've got the Northumberland rail line here, but Newcastle is still in front of it. So Newcastle Northumberland rail line, and at one time it was having more property, the Ashton line and Tiny line. So we still haven't got that right. So when you take the Newcastle, that's what's forward. And just for clarification, that 5 million we're putting into it this year, and some conversation I had with you, maybe Jan, was saying that money is now, for every £1 million we borrow, it has an £880,000 impact of revenue.
NCA.
88,000 So every £1 million borrowed, £88,000 on revenue account for 35 or 40 years. I mean, I don't know how long it's borrowing for, but just bear in mind that it's all lovely and wonderful spending all of this money. Most of it needs to be spent, I realise that. But eventually, keep borrowing at that rate, end up with spending more on borrowed money than you're spending on fixing the roads or educating kids or whatever. So it's a very, very dangerous position. Sorry, that's part of my budget. Anyway,
I listened to what you
I'm going to try and figure something out.
On the one of our leading generation is very much big home and run and as illustration. I think we had a presentation on communities in place. There's a reason why as well. So in terms of the you chose when you were leader to not go ahead with that. And that was your decision. Our decision was that after years and years and years and decades, you need for the economic benefit, the environmental, but it was project that we connected. And of course, it costs a lot more. You know about inflation. I said earlier that we've had to be down 12% inflation at a time when so there's always going to be evenly to use that. This type I am convinced that this is something that will transform outreach. I am having straight away. It might take a month or two, but it will. It will provide the absolute bedrock for the community. People going backwards, forwards, across and down and up. But it is a wonderful thing to do. I'm deeply proud of them for backing this to the extent they have. And I'm very proud of be part of the Conservative administration that has done this as well. Now I know there will always be the requirement to use political narrative around I understand, of course. Then the kind of done, and I think I would say, well done, well behind you.
Thank you.
Sorry. This one is
yes, I can answer that.
Sorry.
Councillor Oval, Councillor Sampson, having a lot there. I am going to ask you with the chance to look at it. Is that the end of your question?
Oh, no. I think
Right, I'm going to bring Councillor Ball and then Councillor Elton. And I am aware that now, yeah, and then Councillor Circle. Right, we are Councillor Deere. It is now at 11, so if we can be quite quick with these questions.
Thank you, Chair. So, the leader stated earlier is highly going forward. So, this document is already up to date behind it. And ask what's the impact, if any, expected this fight national going forward? Okay, and this or more forward, what was it and what impact will it have? Working on a lot of assumptions. I've already stated that I think XP and having a project is organism. The policy conference, I don't think anything matter what to say. And I do worry that we're seeing allegedly more money coming in for practicing changes. This is what people that live in my world are actually not understanding. Yeah, about the things that comes up to me. I had that a lot of stuff already existing as well. So yes, congratulating us more money coming in. But actually people that are seeing the council tax going up who are really struggling. I'm not seeing the improvements that was here in the story and the narrative that yeah, every single meeting when you come in again, people like that are not in benefits are not entitled to what that is the hardest case. And I hear what you're saying about but actually one saying it, they are the ones that are hit the hardest. So how can I congratulate you and stand and support you? And actually the true story what I'm hearing from my residents isn't what the true story that's happening. And when you turn on and say that we are waiting for and everything else, we're not getting information nice, so how can I see that? Functions of everything else. And I get we've got the way. But how encourage councils how residents plan when they are getting these more and more. So to be honest, I suppose that when I don't know what I'm meant to be scrutinizing because it's been engaging on a daily basis. And when you come down to some of the business support, really that you're not charging parking and centres, but the actual the existing businesses and how you can buy and share taking along, and they are absolutely on that course struggling in business, and they're not getting communication, they're not getting support. So it's all well and good by 2025, we're going to have X, Y, and Z, 11 new businesses, it's still big on the business environment. But the existing businesses that's holding up for decades, hanging on, and we're seeing excess and it's great that we're getting more business, that is not helping support for their businesses. One employee, local people, money back in local families, that you can get from day one. Some of them closing the doors after the day. I just really think that we can sell the great stories, but actually it's just organism.
Thank you.
Right, that's
Yeah, no, that's the
first
same.
question was, what wasn't the information there?
Okay, so first of all, evidence is basically used last time. You have the same attitude then. What we're trying to explain was we've had two courses, which is a really 10 out of 10. And the formal session, getting to explain and get use of all members, wherever they sit in this chamber. And that is what we've done. We've had one-to-one group leader meetings, we've had group meetings, I think, we've had all the groups. And this is an attempt by us to ensure that the vision and the three priorities are absolutely met, full on, flat out, and funded properly. So when we talk, for example, about people not being able to pay their council tax, we know that and I was grateful to the Labour group the other day supporting a 92% relief on council tax. In addition to that, you know that anyone who needs help will get it through the council tax. Similarly through the housing relief scheme. You yourself on Friday were present at a gathering in Bedlington, in Ashington, which you and your colleague beside you led. You were there demonstrating the county council's initiatives and benefits that are available to residents I'm glad, because that is what your role is as a councillor, that is mine, to explain all the things we're doing, and you know in your heart that we are doing more than ever before to help the poverty. We can't do it on our own, we're going to do it but by radically improving the amount of money we give to volunteers, by setting up the skills training that we all need to do. So Ashington, young people can get skills training so much easier now than they could have. They have the ability to look for more opportunities as Ashington begins to spend 30 million pounds, which is going to be less than 2. So there are two very positive, I would say, for the future of Ashington. And I think the other thing I would say is that the town council and the town council we work well with, both on an operational basis and a political basis. And I think that's the right way for it to be. And I'm proud of the work that the town council is working together to bring those improvements to young people. So I think all in all, whilst I know you have it's not good. You can well, it's not good. It is a really genuine attempt to do everything we can on those 3 priorities: clear, balance, straight, and finding the money that is the last drop ever.
Thank you, Councillor Sands. Can I just say before I ask Mr. Paul a second question? We found our in committee, and they had tabled this schedule of efficiencies as part of their meeting. And the overall impression that they had was that, where was the detail behind this? So that is that feeling that there's a lack of information put out at this point. I think there is about that, and it goes back to the schedule of payments and costs. Councillor Reid asks for year after year. So I think we do need to note, in whatever way, after this committee, that is a feeling that there's a lack of information somewhere along the line. Thank you. Councillor Bourne, a second question.
Yeah, it's just, it can give that was an example for what was that and impact on the budget. This will be an explanation. I'm clear that it's some of the national is only that and the whole one will happen at the beginning, but actually you know how to then
thank you very much for that. I would love to go back to what if we had the ability to spend more. Actually, we have £30 million something that is never been used. £30 million from the National Bank. We've already agreed a contract. We've already money. So you will be I do that. We do it first. In terms of this budget, I'm surprised to hear the detail about it. We have had consultation with them. We had a conference with them before Christmas, and we set up another one because that one went so well in March. But of course, you as the local representative, presumably go to parish and town council, giving them a written update. So any questions that we thought might be coming through that dialogue. But that's how you might do it. I'm very pleased with the future that we have for Ashington.
I think you'll go back to the question. What is the item that is
the impact on the budget is also absolutely not the solution.
right? Councillor Boyd, did that answer your question about the omission from this budget? It's the short.
I still feel that there is lack of
I'm going to come back on that as well, sorry, but when it said, when it attended the Paris meeting, that possibly economic questions or this, I don't feel difficult, I think that was the information, and then there's this well, so that's what was at the window as far as I was concerned. But I'm bringing this back to the budget, the 2024-25 budget. Hello, do you have other questions? No,
Without detail, I can't ask.
Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, great view from the Chair, and my colleague here about very difficult to get Peter, on your opening address, you mentioned about the levelling up. Levelling up one, two, from and it did have its goals. I'm just more worried as we move forward because the county that any schemes or schemes for work out of school and are protected by inflation. Now, I'm leveling up to one level up to that's a conversation right. There's a many steps this year. We have to have that because what's happening leveling up to 1 and 2 is a reduced quality of the service of the project. Don't want to go there. I want to try and get the best we can. As much as I am passionate about action, I'm trying to stay on the road. The other concern I've got around about the leveling up is the tight deadlines that this government gives. As we're moving into unsure times around a lot of elections, further was getting to that scenario. So that may in itself slow the project down, which may miss tight deadlines. It's something for all of us to do that. I know that that's happening elsewhere. So that was just on the opening address. And I just want to come back to the big piece that you've got again the second piece. The bottom is got highway maintenance and pothole repair fund. So we've got a highway maintenance, we've got a pothole repair fund, this being from the school. As I've been speaking to officers, they will get joined together. My concern is that we should see what is being benefited from the government to be allowed in it anytime. And I would like to see that separated. You also said something residents like for base services. I don't think residents do, and I definitely know that some of the councillors do. So the reality is coming back to the conditions of the road. On the roads in the southeast part of Northumberland. I refer to them as a good winter road, this great vendor, will need to get some work to. Now, I know this is the point of information. The six colleagues from Ashington, we put 2,000 pounds in just to get a white lady doing in that town to refresh it and make things look better in that town. Out of a small scheme money. It never did it. It never ever did it. It should be good anyway on the grounds of safety. Look, it is our drive from Ashington to make Ashington that place. Never be using that small scheme money behind. We should be supporting behind it. No, we like to have a little bit of look at the 12,000 pounds of white lady and it was good. And I've also asked for an area breakdown from us. And the area has been the 4 main areas of Northumberland, of the state of Ireland. Really concerned about quality of work that gets done elsewhere, the coverage, which I understand sometimes in rural areas, the big problem where the population are coming from blind, and living, they know, and actually that needs to be looked at because we are struggling for industry. And I think Councillor Reid stole me thunder on the whole school transport. You know, I think those answers, those questions are answered. And same again, you mentioned something about myself and Councillor for attending an event on Friday. we will attend any event that is going to support and help residents that we support. So it's not a tick box exercise, and it's great that somebody was told that I was there, but at the end of the day, I was support residents. And here I come through with my colleague, the 30 billion pounds is going to be better now. Anybody that comes back, but the likely table of the dream, the moment of the table of the nightmare, luckily table of giving very, very limited information. I want to do, but I'm meeting tonight also as a further update. And just feel if I'm colleagues, it's something, let's see what's there. But just like they go involved. And I'm sorry for the last minute meeting, the last minute brief update isn't what I want to be for. I want to.
Thank you, Councillor Bernadette. I think your main question with regards to this budget was to do with the local transport plan, and also Councillor Richard here. Do you want to take that or do you want to?
But I mean, I can answer. So, it's going to back into the 30 million in in terms of high roads, you're right about you know what roads are like on the past. You know actually your family is in the same position as almost all, if not every, council. You just need to drive along the M1, route, and then the M1. You'll see what's going on. So we know why. We know because people traffic like itself. That's why we put in this extra money this year to tackle those new training USG work. But that's on top of the LTP money that's already there. And we will make it. It is a battle. We will win it. But it's nothing to do with spending all the money in the rest of it is whatever needed. We won't work with it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is from Barton. Yes, I am a well-traveled person, so I'm not going to go fairness. Let's deal with the populated areas. A total figure of money here for where the population. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've made those feelings quite clear, and said I get, but is that the end of your questions? Well, what are the two various questions on this budget? After this, we have Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make one general point and then a specific question. The general point is sometimes when things are free for a long time, we tend not to notice it, let alone appreciate it. I just came back, having returned from India and dealt with some sickness of elderly relatives. I come back appreciating how it is. When somebody falls sick, you don't have to come to that balance. A similar scheme we operate here is the free car park in Tanzania. That is an investment. Sometimes it has been there free for a long time, and we are still maintaining it. In a way, it is an investment to promote small businesses, even though it doesn't appear so in the budget. We not only operate free car parking space, but they are largely highly available. I mean, I went to market several times. Not only I park free, but the spaces are highly available just before. So that is a kind of investment which doesn't appear in this budget. It's the pages. I don't know how much we would have made. In fact, we are unique among the regions because I was talking to some of my colleagues in there. Them living there and they are surprised. That comes in the car parking close, not about it's free. I really do not know what would be the notional gain in making that post in the charges, but that money, in fact, the investment was on. And especially at the time when the town centers are, required regeneration. So this is my general point, because sometimes we miss the hidden investment which comes in the form of properly doing job. Coming to the specific question, I was looking at the table 5.10 in page 26. This talks about efficiency savings. The two big items are best savings, coming to about 3.6 million for this year and 7.5 plus next year. That I think in the subsequent pages are well explained. But I'm unable to understand the second item, big item, manage demand. What is this? Can you please provide some explanation, because we appear to be sure of saving 3.6 million under that category and 5.4. So what demand that is being managed, and hope is not press, because cutting the basic services. I just want some clarification.
Thank you. Jan, do you want to take this one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that comprises two items, it's £3 million care management savings from reviewing individual packages, and 606,000 from a reduction in out-of-county placements due to the fact that poor buildings are capital insurance.
So, is it there somewhere, but I'm unable to.
Yeah, so if you look at the treasurer's grant proposed efficiencies on page 21,
31.
you see under adults, aging and well-being, the first line there is for 3 million, and then first line on the children education 1 that's where the other 600,000.
This 3 billion is kind of what you receive from the central government. Is that
No.
yes, no?
So that's the ongoing review of the individual packages which the adult social care team carry out. So it's all about how we manage our spend within our overall commissioning budget. Me and Concha provide some further.
Yeah, I'm slightly concerned about
if you like. But it's a continuation of what we do every year.
So there will not be any adverse effect, because I'm slightly concerned about care of health and well-being. So is there a parallel measure of how this impacts on the well-being services provided?
It means probably that's this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, this is very clear. Two main things. Largest company reviewed and review maybe a couple. The way things happen when a care goes in initially, for a settled group in the environments, there are significant levels of care in those early stages. It's been post one as well as how they behave. High pressure teams with high workloads don't always ask to review those packages because that level of person settled and they don't need as much care. Reviewing independence needs specific to review those packages. And it also looks for efficiency where we have intense support living guidance providers providing care. People live very close to your area, trying to streamline that care. Get efficiency there, like contacts with our home providers, problems with providers. At no point does anybody get notified back. Versus organization, not being inaccessible to the actually be quite damaging. I mean, somebody settled in an environment, also one care close to you around you can actually activate your behavior. All about the best individuals, but by fortune, and it's also much more efficient.
No further questions.
Thank you. We have Councillor Deere and Councillor Foreman, and I'm going to draw to the course after that because there's well on this time here and we do have quite a hefty report on the workforce coming up after this. So Councillor Deere.
I just concrete football that UK. I would like to see space for your first delivery, which the company carries money. No more over the last 20 years now. And typically, when we come to the forest, we need to store that obviously we don't know the all the benefits, must be benefits, to the residents of the country, not to the landowner. I think that's something positive to know. The other one is not about actually, I don't know much because of this was in 2014 through. I would like to see a full design or budget for where the rest of these space consideration. Obviously, you know, it's a massive, it's a long term program of transport. If they realize we're on time, that's a big, this good thing for everybody can I think we could have a conversation about that, where all I do is conversation, not an hour or whatever. You need to know when, and when we're going to find funding for it. It might not be this year, it might not be next year, many for example,
I think concerning, can I ask about if those items are reading, is that fine with you? And I go around to all members or?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat what I said previously. All of that detail will be in the report. Time of this meeting is slightly unfortunate, but it's slightly ahead of publication. That report will have all of the detail and all of the very detailed cases that we're in. This is an additional report. You know, we have that report every year. This is an additional report that we brought forward because we knew we were going to be meeting at the end of January to give you an update on the current position and the opportunity to have a preview of both the product category program, don't normally see at this stage, and the savings proposals, which you also don't usually see at this stage. So it's not instead of, it's in addition to. And that detailed report will be published next week, because the meeting will be on the 30th of February. There will be a further opportunity if you have questions or comments on that report ahead of the council meeting. There will be an opportunity to do that. And the other point has not yet closed. Public consultation has not yet closed and won't close until the end of this week. So we also need to consider any mistakes in the consultation before we can finalise the proposal. So I understand members said they'd like to see all of the very detailed and concrete final proposals that we spoke.
So just to sum up, that report should be out in the public domain on the 6th, and of course the council on the 13th, and cabinet on the 30th. and then full council. And I believe that you're quite comfortable around groups because any to answer any questions in the meantime.
Absolutely. Also, council and council, as we normally do it, or, you know,
Is that a right person there?
yeah.
Councillor Bowman.
I don't know if you can remember, but not that many years ago, I used to spend that finance and asking for all money for education, for schools, and for mainly for asking high school to reach the and school building that we're going through. And we've seen since a full councillor has now been built. The price for the school was 38 million. It's on 50 million value of that. And that's actually both money into that project. But it is the fault of this government, price on it. And we, as a local authority here in Northumberland, haven't the expert in. So, don't get concerned that any praise whatsoever of the management of the economy. And so thank you very much for that. I do have a goal, and that is in the summer, this one, you expanded the youth service. And it was an absolute shock. I mean, it was an outreach service as well as a place to be. And the youth in Valley used to love it, and they were proud of it. But it's come to I'm pleased to announce that Seaton Valley Community Council agreed in its recent budget to reinstate service. It's no thanks to Northumberland County Council, but there we go. And following on, you mentioned about the Northumberland.
Councillor Bowman, is there a question?
Yes. You mentioned about the Northumberland line, and yes, it is a fantastic project. Yes, it will bring major investment into the area. Yes, it will bring jobs, opportunities. It will be a game changer in many ways. My question is, if it was in the southeast, it would be electrified. Are you going to push for this project to be electrified, to be green? We say it's going to reduce carbon emissions. Would reduce carbon emissions even more. We're going to push that. But it's not level. It's not a vision that you have. It's not there. How you can push ahead and turn it into an electrified line.
Councillor Sanderson.
Okay. Again, I would say I understand. We need to find issues that have raised, so get a really positive story and I understand it. But let's be quite clear. The Northumberland line is a significant investment, not only by government, but also by ourselves. And when we talk about council tax, go up, should go down, just bear in mind, if we brought council tax down, would you then stop the Northumberland line? Would you then stop all the work we're doing on the policy? Would you then reduce the amount of spending on our road? Would you then stop the line of future care? These are all issues that need to be dealt with in a careful, modest, and sensible way, using evidence as the basis. So, I don't agree with you that it's going to reach the level in many countries. Disgracefully in the and then we have picked up the line of building this line and go around the old leader say, if we don't get this line up, then I'll build it myself. And I see the first one that he did do that. I don't want to be competitive, but I think we're all together, and I think you're all very much with me. All very much with me on the basis of this budget, which will continue to be investment. the super school will not just be a school, it will be a school that has a wide range, including swimming pool, including a swimming pool. I mean, how can anyone find everything? Please,
And also the question about the realisers, all the pushing for the airport issues, and then I have to put that in this, because I don't want to put down the political party. As far as the line is concerned, is that an ambition to see it electrified? That's all I need.
Well, I'm simply going to say that it's a democracy which I always would wish for. I won't push in generous. But simply say the electrification line is not. I'll share something that will look.
Thank you. I have two really quick questions of my own, with regard to the budget, and the first one is, I think all right with that one, for 2 seconds, and I'll be asking here. The household support fund has been used to provide crisis help, crisis support for vulnerable households. Given the rise in the cost of living crisis, can you confirm whether this has been extended and past the 31st of March 2024? Is one question. Because I believe that if that isn't extended, it does leave quite a major hole that councils and charities may not be able to fill or will find difficulty to face. And secondly, is just on the capital programme, can the member scheme yeah, please, the question it increases after the next 2 years.
So I don't believe that we have had any indication from government that school funds will continue beyond this year. I think that's right, yes. So I think we are planning on the basis that that funding will not be there, but that is very much tied up with some work we're doing, her team are doing around how we might build that capacity in communities and families. So that's the first question. And then the second question on the small members things is, I think we have some slippage. Sorry, I'm getting it wrong line. Sorry, there is some slippage. So we are carrying that forward, and that's why the figures are higher than in some years.
Yeah, thank you. Right. I am aware of the time. I'm also aware that Councillor Taylor. Yeah. You want to come in, Councillor Taylor, and then we do have to bring this side of this agenda to close, I'm afraid.
Thank Councillor Robinson and Councillor Lee, but one of the here is a thing. Yeah, it's the finance and procurement. So I've got just to cover the background and strategic regeneration project. There is not 500 million in there, but listed above there, we've got all of the borderlands and we've got the forest, everything else there. So what is regeneration? What is the concept? If it doesn't consist of these, you haven't got it, you can send us an email, that's fine. And the other questions are, the strategic employment site, the neighbourhood site, where are they, what are they? And the rules of the party, I know this back was quite earlier than that. So that's what I'm saying, the single component of a member organization. That was what they are. And it will also have a subsequent grant account of over half, or just over $500,000. I mean, we've already heard that means getting 30 million, so why are we giving advance more money because then that's when we've got that recently worried issues again. So, but I have to get the after keep your response all after you.
What would you like to do then?
I think probably an email response.
Right, I do want to bring this to change that item to full scale. We've had recommendations on this item, and it is well to notice. And what I would like to say is we can see by the length of time this is taken, how many questions there are at this point in time, and you know, how many questions councillors will need answered on the budget and the budget that is here. So, as Councillor Ball said, you know, as we welcome, and as much as we welcome the conferences and policy conferences that we've had, and there's still questions to be had. So I would be quite welcome Jan and the team coming around on a personal basis, two groups to answer all the questions that we may have. And we will have more, I'm sure, when those next reports come out. So I will ask the committee, are they happy to note this report, which is all we're asked to do at this point? Yeah, agreed? Yeah, yeah, that is agreed. But I would like to say that, you know, we did feel that we need more information, possibly more timely. If we move on now to item 6, the necessary analysis of sickness and absence within the council.
Thank you, Chair. This, just for context, this report follows a report was received by the Corporate Services and Economic Development Committee back in September. There were a number of questions raised there, and then it tends to be an all-encompassing report that addresses those questions.
Yes, Councillor Brinshaw.
Oh, sorry. Very this report looks specifically at classes in the council, which I think is quite clear, is at an all-time high. What we did in our analysis of this, which we've both go through the deep dive, the order is very, very deep dive, it's quite a data-rich report. If we looked at 2019, the reason for that being that that's the last what we consider critical years, so pre-COVID year, all of our 6 months rates used by COVID, as you can imagine, and we've looked at a complete year of data and this what we've seen is there's been roughly a 1% increase in our not it is in reality our rates have gone up. I am pleased to report, however, to have gone down in December 2023 and done our climate report. We were concerned to see that and we wanted to know how we fared in comparison to the local authority. What we proved was that we are roughly about 1.16 days higher than the LGA average. We are the lowest region. We also undertake SIPA benchmarking. SIPA define our nearest neighbours, not as our geographical neighbours, but as our neighbours in terms of demographics, etc. And we've actually found that our we're the lowest in that news. We want to understand where the issue was, and I think we've repeatedly seen that the highest levels of absence are in adults and children. We have seen the greatest increase in rates in adults placed in student Directorate. So what was the issue? We found that the respiratory reasons were the main issue for our short-term absence and mental health reasons were the greatest incidents in terms of our long-term absences. That is reflected nationally. Northumberland are not unique in this. We've seen this across all employers, across the whole country. Respiratory being the short term and then mental health being the long term. These are really macro issues. It's not necessarily right to think about Northumberland in isolation. These are issues that are impacting all of us. With regard to the respiratory reasons, we can only assume that people are more vigilant than they used to be. They're less likely to talk about if they do become poorly with respiratory infection, and they're likely to stay at home in order to protect their colleagues. Our policy actually is that people attend to work, and colleagues actually expect it of each other that their colleagues don't turn up to work if they're feeling and therefore put them at risk. With regards to mental health, I don't think we can underestimate the impact that COVID has had. It has a huge psychological strain on people, even though we are out of the pandemic, so to speak. These things don't resolve themselves overnight. We've looked at, that there's a higher prevalence of financial hardship, there's a higher prevalence of people getting burned out by the pressures that were put under during COVID. We looked at relationship breakdowns. What I'm saying is basically the mental health issues that are manifesting themselves in absence rate are quite likely caused by outside external factors. We've looked at work-related stress, and what we've actually found is that accounts for 12.37% of our overall mental health absences. We did want to know if there was any internal factors that might impact on that, so we looked at whether or not it was a case of was it your job, was it a result of your gender, could it be age-related, is it because of the service that you're in, is it working, is it pressure because staffing levels are low? I know that was a particular concern for the committee, and I think that was carried over and replicated at the audit committee as well. What we found was that care workers and social workers have the highest level of sickness. But again, the significant increase in rate is period in roles in place, so in roles that we haven't seen high levels previously, so in refuse loaders and niche operatives. We know nationally women are more likely than men to take absence due to sickness, but there has been a sharp rise in men in that time frame that we've been looking at. We think the reason for that might be that it's less taboo for men now to speak about their mental health concerns. It's not necessarily a case of we're experiencing a higher incidence, but we might actually be experiencing a higher rate of reporting. We do notice that rates of absence increase in line with age. And whilst we didn't find any link between vacancies and sickness at directorate level, we did find correlation at a role level. So not only do care workers and social workers have the highest level of sickness, they also have the highest level of vacancy as well. What I would say is that our vacancy levels, whilst they run high when we compare them internally, our care worker vacancies and our social worker vacancies aren't high by comparison to other authorities. Another thing I want to point out is obviously correlation doesn't necessarily indicate causation. We've got minimum service levels that we operate within those service areas. So where there are vacancies, we do bring in additional resources if we need to. In terms of our vacancy review panel, which we use in order to ensure that the budget is being effectively spent, and just calling into question some of those vacancies that maybe we need to think of a bit differently, a little bit creative about how we fill those. Vacancies for social workers and carers are actually exempt from that panel. So in other words, when a vacancy occurs, there's an automatic granting for managers to actually go out and recruit for those vacancies. These are hard roles. There are national shortages for these staff. It's not necessarily the case of Northumberland aren't doing enough in order to be able to attract carers and social workers. They simply don't exist. So we've come to the conclusion that what we're better off doing is actually trying to grow our own. And if we are in a competitive market or trying to attract carers and social workers, we want to put ourselves in front of books. There's a lot of effort going into recruitment campaigns, etc. For example, we use career fairs very effectively when we go into communities and we try and attract interest in our care worker vacancies. And those candidates are actually offered the opportunity to apply there and then. It's not a case of going home and mulling it over and then deciding that they might wish to apply for things. We're actually capturing them there and then and encouraging them to apply for all those. We've actually been quite successful in that approach. The other sources of data that we looked at were around exit data, and I believe this is an area that audit were interested in. What I would say is that our exit data is woefully insufficient in the sense that we're not great at collecting exit data, but that is an area that we're looking at. I think the 15.6% completion rate that we've got, we do question whether or not that is statistically significant. What I would say though is in terms of general well-being, we do test that and we have tested it quite recently through the pulse survey, and what we found is that 67% of respondents in that pulse survey rated themselves at 7 and above, whereas 33% report experiencing some stress. What has become apparent since analysing those results is that question wasn't particularly well worded, because we asked in very general terms, have you experienced stress? We haven't asked a lot of experienced stress at work or over what time frame. So it's a fairly open question, and I think it's something that we'd like to tighten up with. So taking all that into account, and we have standard approach which is found by our health and wellbeing policy in terms of how we manage absence of work through the activities of our operational HR team, referrals to occupational health. We've got a very good health and wellbeing offer in terms of supporting people to be more progressive in their approach, that kind of self-initiated approach. There's a lot of resources out there for our health and wellbeing offer. But what we do is actually ask ourselves the question, what more can we do? How can we sort of push that on? We know that we've got an issue. We know that what we're currently doing, whilst it is sufficient, it isn't really breaking the back of the issues that we've got, and there's probably more that we can be doing. You'll see towards the conclusion of that report, there's a number of options that we are considering implementing, not least our occupational health officer. We have a long-standing arrangement with Northumbria. Since 2016, that contract has rolled and rolled. One thing that we're mindful of is that there's great pressure on that service and there has been, and there's been a distancing between what was originally contracted for and what we actually need now. So we have worked with them to implement a period of improvement without using the shortfall. There is a possibility that we may look to work with that provider further to improve their offer, but alternatively, if they aren't able to meet those requirements, then maybe we need to look elsewhere for an alternative occupational health offer. We would like to bolster our internal offer of mental health support, and I think by doing that, we'll be looking to bring in our own directly employed cognitive behavioural therapists. So rather than relying upon an external resource, which is obviously under pressure from all directions, bearing in mind that it's a formal Northumbria healthcare service, this would be something that we could do in-house ourselves. They are available, these people do exist, and it may be something that ultimately we could do to allow better access to actually access those services. Also, for this exercise, we've identified the roles with additional vulnerability, and what we propose to do is undertake several target intervention in those areas. So, care workers and social workers, where the subject matter we deal with is particularly harrowing, we will be able to provide additional mental health support to those areas, so that our circumstances might not be a possibility. In other words, build their own sort of personal resilience, so that they're better able to process the content that they're dealing with, and they know where to go when they're doing that additional level of support. And then obviously look at things like preventative mental health training by our service training framework. So mental health training would be effectively integrated every single touch point that we normally have in our standard training framework. So right from induction through to leadership development. And I think with our FUJAB programme, we have allowed access to all, and that's not necessarily not going to stop being the case. We will continue to allow all of our staff access to the FUJAB programme. But we do recognise that there's probably needs to make more targeted promotions in areas where there's a greater level of exposure, particularly on this greater level. We do want to work with service areas in order to conduct focus groups. I think we need to recognise that we are going to potentially be going through period of change as a result of this. We expect that will have an impact on some individuals because there are varying degrees of readiness, let's say, in the organisation for change, and that will have a psychological impact, there's no doubt about it. People will feel destabilised, they will feel worried, scared of the future, so we need to give some thought, I think, to how we actually support people through that change and ensure that the ongoing resource help people intervene as we start to feel the pressure of that. What I would say in conclusion is has been actually a really useful exercise, and whilst it was supplementary to the workforce report, I think what it's allowed us to do is create almost a boilerplate template that allows us to monitor the impact of some of those interventions that I've just referred to. So I think it has been really useful, that we've got a much better grip and understanding of sickness absence, where it occurs and why it might potentially occur, and it's forced us to really sort of focus on how we might stop things in terms of how we support people who are experiencing the absence there.
I'd like to thank Sarah for what was a really full and detailed report, and also thank her for specifying an indication into the last item, which is quite like the way to send it to. But it is a full and detailed report, and the emphasis that we're putting on the mental health, I think, is really welcome. And full Councillor Bruce, have questions?
I don't know if they've looked at also, still on communicating contest before it's really gone in depth in our work because it's something that we did ask for the course came about and with other things, but it became a bit important. And now we're looking at it and we have much work has been done and there's a lot of work to do, but I do welcome it and I'm sure others will be looking at it as well because it implicates every school needs, but I'm sure that other schools will have a lot to say as well, but it's just supposed to show you that the level of sickness absolutely the free stuff like that understanding, so thank you very much, Sarah.
Mr. Taylor, Councillor Dean.
Thank you. And yeah, great report, really interesting, a lot of information. But one of the things that I just wanted to pick up, of course, there is what we think to be a 926, right? And some of the back office rule, although there's no a big idea about to measure, it would be that some staff that quality often work from home. Is there any way we can gather that information? Is that some sort of because for me, if somebody's sick, they can't really work from home, so that the study of the sick, I think that kind of thing is and that was really wrong.
I think you're right. It's a very difficult thing to measure, because what is effectively doing is homeworking could be masking sickness. I think the intention behind that statement was more around those people who would pre-COVID have dragged themselves into the office, coughed and spitted all over their colleagues, probably doing okay at work, probably functioning, still productive. But now what we're saying is, I actually said that to a colleague last week who was talking about what we're doing here. We don't need to. You can do it. And we feel well enough to work. Why come in and create risk for your colleagues? It is a potential explanation for why those who haven't got that option might experience high levels of absence. Frontline services, referees who can't do their jobs from home, care workers who can't do their jobs from home. There's a higher level of absence incidents in those areas. It could very well be because they're not able to achieve that kind of in-between state of being at home, being able to work, protecting their colleagues. I think that would be intention around that statement is the kind of case in the mass numbers.
I think my concern is that it could be massively a bit more different. And I think it needs to be explored.
I think what that boils down to is good management. When you expect people who are working from to be in regular contact with their manager to be aware of what their sort of welfare state is, during healthy times, and monitoring saying to individuals that they are unwell, be at work, rather than staying at home and
logging on and potentially sort of presenting as somebody who's fit to be at work. It's about that managerial relationship, I was saying, actually, are you able to be present, to be online and at work, so to speak.
Thanks, Dean.
Yeah, thank you very much. And just one thing I would like to ask about the actual interview. Good work to be done here. The analysis files, the can have a copy of the report of the report. It needs to be tabled. People know, I'm not aware that you would like to vote and like aspect. I know it's quite difficult to get. This is table, is to have a table. I'll give you a ring about the answer. And again,
Yes, thank you, Councillor Dean. Obviously, the audit committee members would have received this report as part of the papers that went out today. Yeah, thank you. Is that all? Is that all, Councillor Dodd?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to see I go back on green. At one point, these figures are quite good in comparison to what it was. I remember years ago, decades ago, everybody in this country had an extra 15 days off. That was addressed. So I think COVID has really dealt with low, but the absence rate was on average 15 days. So that wasn't good then, but it's a lot better, up and down than it was. So it's a little bit on COVID, I don't know.
Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things that I know that brings stress amongst staff is when somebody is not, whether sickness or sickness. So it can be a compound because somebody else on a sick, you're having to do their work or extra work to cover that. Is the structure of the council in a way that where there is people off, we've got capacity in the workforce, or are we just working on the bones? There is no capacity. So if somebody's on sick or somebody leaves, puts a lot of stress on that department.
What I would say is that I don't think we ought to have certain where there are these massive pressures. But when it comes to critical service levels, we do have options bringing resources either via our staff bank or worst case scenario via agency, so that would be an additional cost. But like I say, whether it's critical service level, minimum service levels that need to be met, those options are available to managers who are managing those services. I definitely wouldn't say that there are staff waiting to be deployed where there's an absence. I'm proud to say that most absences are short term, and I think it's 30 degree we can I think what's most important, one of the things that we will discover through best is that we've got multi-skilled people who are able to be deployed in an agile way. So whilst it might be additional pairs of hands, we've got people who have the skills to be able to move into places and effectively divert their attention into things that are more important.
Thank you. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you very much for the next report. I'm pleased to get looking at the manual office-based work separately for all separate issues of the program. My concern is the speed of replacing data. And my colleagues just said there. I'm more mindful that all areas or all departments have a budget and they're trying to protect that. And I know one of three occasions where
somebody is left from the head of that department, the lead clear, to the middle management. And there's no advertising that role until that person's left. They haven't been prepared. So once again, the stress, the anxiety, the workload goes on to the dedicated people. I think we have to look at the problems before they become a problem, and that is one of them. I touched on the whole idea of the workload there. The workloads, there are people living in this authority to go to neighbouring authority, definitely more money and less workload. And I'm not going to the details of the problem, so we have that problem. But that's not the knowledge. You know, the reality is workloads given to individuals. I don't know if I picked it up right, but when you were saying about your exit data, you want to speak to that, is that right? So maybe you have to cover that and basically maybe compare to other areas of why people leave the jobs that they're in. But I think of all the things I said before, the biggest investment workload are very much attached to the fact that that's why we people have had enough. No, now they'll retire early or leave to another authority. And I think it's probably the percentage of people leaving to other authorities is higher than what it should be and will be for other areas. Thank you for that.
I would express a word of caution. I think it's difficult to make inferences based on destination data because we've got such a poor turnout in terms of our exit response. It is an option on the exit questionnaire for individuals who are leaving us to indicate where it is that they're going. And I think I would like to do in future workforce reports, look at that specifically to understand what the destination is. It's probably, I would say, there's a sketchy inference at this stage. I appreciate you've probably got anecdotal evidence of it, but so far that's not what the data is telling us. But like I say, I would like to significantly improve that response rate before we can speak confidence about what it is that's driving people potentially out of the organisation. Or pulling from another organisation.
Just quickly come back on that. Yeah. Confidence that people don't need whatever comments or statements they make are in the strictest. I will mention a calorie. Right, thank you.
Thank you. Right, and any other questions for Sarah? I can second, sure.
Please, possibly have this comprehensive report, get the deep dive, and then we'll basically just look at the report. I think all the scrutiny committees would appreciate the fact that we are now looking into this, receiving them, and look at them, which I know we're doing, we're doing very well. I think looking at the report, there's a lot of improvements to that, and I think looking on an annual basis, or even, on a shorter basis, if there's any cross-up, I'm sure, we'll look to fix it, if they're prevented rather than enhanced. So if we could do that, I would really appreciate it.
And yes, one of the recommendations is a question posed to committee as to what we would like to see from this. Mindful that it's a supplementary report, presumably because the annual workforce report was lacking this information. So what we want to do when we come back with the annual workforce report is to make sure it's as comprehensive as possible to address any members.
I have Councillor Bean and then Councillor Esther Farrell. Hi, Councillor Hall.
This program was here before it was working on the house. Even now, there's still a lot of people working from home, which cause health problems for themselves, about interaction with other colleagues, and being immersed by yourself for this one days. How can you monitor that where somebody possibly has mental health issues, still working from home? You don't know it because they talk to the freedom of view once a week. Getting to line managers after be difficult. How can you make sure that they back to work? How can you monitor that? That's very difficult. One other question, we won't be able to answer one answer. Obviously, living in Malta, a lot of people who work here And the opinion of most of them I'm speaking to is since there's been possibly the employees in the higher area of management, the atmosphere here now is much better controlled, and people were taking time off because of the fear of bullying, toxic atmosphere. The old report that we found out that it wasn't on that. What comes with the old report?
I'll take the first question first. The working from home and mental health issue is a very difficult thing to gauge, and I think what I would say is that we've easily understand the concept of work smart. There's used to be a review conducted in that, and one of the recommendations is that we further refine our relationship with staff in terms of what the expectations of the service are, but I think also down to an individual level, building on what knowledge might be of that individual and their state of mental health is, coming to arrangements whereby we do touch base with them more frequently. We do offer them the opportunity to come into the office. And we're not averse to people having a very different arrangement from their colleagues if that is what they need. That is a means by which we can provide them the support that they need, but also to reduce those feelings of isolation and loneliness. It's very real through COVID as well. So it goes back to the strength and understand that exists within managerial relationships. Obviously, we've got multiple sources of support that we can put people in touch with. But if we believe that working from home is not the best thing for that individual, then there are remedies that we can put in place to ensure that they are able to come into the office and be around their colleagues and see the peer support that they would benefit from. The second question around, is there a sense that the atmosphere is better? Well, we actually undertook a bit of sort of a cultural report, and I can't say it necessarily due to any one particular fact, but we undertook to provide the cultural report peer review team every year. And what was coming across quite consistently is that people do get a sense of a cultural shift. And it was obviously a new building, not a new building, but a refurbished building, which we didn't have obviously pre-COVID. But I think people genuinely enjoy coming into work, and there was a real sense that it's a much more positive place to be. And maybe something that we can test through the staff survey and design staff survey, just how much of an impact the working environment has on an individual's mental health.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to, it appears to me kind of anomaly here. Focus on chart 3 on page 42. The total last 18 days, kind of not evenly, unevenly distributed. The red refers to 2019, pre-COVID, and blue 2023. Whereas in others, aging and well-being, there's a big difference. Whereas in public health and also the transformation of resources, negligible. Is there, did you look into this? Why this? I mean, within the council, one division has got a clear loss, and then other divisions have negligible difference. So you look into that. That's my first question. And the second question is going from chart 6 to everywhere else. The yellow bar refers to other reasons. They are consistently low as we move from 2019 to 2023. So that looks to be a kind of an anomaly if you have a look into it and find any explanation of it.
I'll take the second part of the second part of your question first. What we've tried to do is that we felt that managers were quite passively recording sickness absence as other, and we've actually removed that as removed in the process of removing that as an option. So it simply which is probably why we've sensed that drop off. And what we're actually trying to do is use in such a way so that managers are forced, encouraged to record an actual absence reason, because that gives us better data, that better allows us to get a sense of what is going on with indirect, whereas other was previously used as a catch-all. Yes. So it's not statistically significant. What it's indicative of is the fact that it's not no longer an option.
In the way you sacrifice
Correct.
that's showing out. Thank you.
Correct. The other part of the question around the difference, you're right, it is quite stark. The rate of increase in certain directorates, whereas other directorates have remained fairly stable. We obviously looked at the reasons for that. We found basically that the higher prevalence of mental health issues and respiratory reasons, particularly in those areas. Bear in mind as well that when you think about respiratory reasons in the context of private services, we would actively discourage people from coming to work and then working with vulnerable people in particular. So it's not a surprise that that rate has increased as much as it has. The world has changed significantly. So we were obviously during COVID necessitating people not to come in, but now we're actively discouraging people when they're feeling poorly with respiratory symptoms. Councillor Ford.
Thank you, Chair. So again, it's just a bit more, I would love to see more data on the working from home actually the days of the days that are expected physically in the building. But I think that is important because I know nationally in lots of other organisations, like the days that they're expected in the office or the days from home. So if we could have a little bit of a look at that data, I'm really concerned with the massive increases in certain departments where some are offering 4%, then when we look at it in the entire office, revenue growth, 31 and 4%, they stand out. Are we working with external bodies to affect the time there? Because is it an organisation that we need to put in place, make sure that really have a look at it and looking at that statement just let's say in the budget impacts and the agencies when necessary or actively contracted to deliver our services, we've got an impact assessment on that because obviously we got when the agency staff people there work with these staff with responsibility that we have. If we have budget for that, long time but it also has an impact on what agencies are technically have an element benefit will have that not effect from well-being, health, resilience, anything else, and actually what we get with forward with or
The first question was regards to working from home and office employees when we're expecting to work. What I would say is that there isn't any expectation for different services take different approaches. That's one of the things that we want to standardise through Work Smart is get that understanding of how people actually experience Work Smart and their individual service areas. What might work for one service doesn't necessarily work for another service. It's about effectively forming an agreement with a service manager as to what Work Smart looks like for them. So it's a bit of a misnomer to say that we expect people in on certain days. That might be the case in some areas, but it's not in other areas. So it's a hard one to gauge and measure. With regards to the question around what we're doing in the highest passive areas, one of the things that we want to do is run forward in those areas, specifically with the workforce to understand what it is that they are experiencing and help them devise the solutions to that. What support do they need? And then we'll look at what we've got within our sort of armour currently, but also what additional we can do in the enforced forces, what works with predominantly male-dominated workforce, what we work in other areas of the council, places and areas we need to. I want to draw your attention to the existence of our psychological wellbeing coordinator, Nicola Beckles, who we brought in about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. She is having a huge impact in terms of helping people work with their mental health concerns. It also takes the pressure off psychological services for occupational health. It gives some of the preventative work, so before people become in therapy and clinical resilience training with them, particularly well received in place. So maybe something about how we can better use her. Maybe that's already having build upon that in those areas. And then with regards to your final question with agency, it is obviously an area of expenditure. One of the things that we're trying to do is actually build our own in-house agency. So there wouldn't be that disparity between somebody who's working £5 for £5 an hour less alongside their agency colleagues. Instead, we're looking to build our staff plan offer where people are employed on the same rates for those who are substantially people.
Again, I think Councillor Ball wants to come back on that.
You will be doing these interruptions just because if somebody asks you directly, so how are we there that the voice of our activate and that we then different or we need to wait for, because ultimately the thing that interview actually is part of the problem is that you're waiting. But you know, to be honest, and to be quite honest with you, so it's not something you're like or putting in place. So I just think it's really important that while working whether it's just department, people feel that they can be honest, and because all well and good getting an email of your leader or your supervisor, but actually they're not from what you want to feel confident that anything that's important to you or actually that can be the place or if you think it's still within the team, that would make it great for yourself long term because ultimately there's not may or may not be important to you.
I hear what you're saying, absolutely. I think that you make a valid point, and I think we probably need to be support as to how we can do that to elicit the most open and honest response. With regards to the exit data, I think our current approach is actually sort of curbing our ability to be able to get that honest data. It might actually impact on our response rate. So we are looking at the exits separately anyway, and trying to bring as much independence as we can into that, but also in an effort to allow us to, where we need to, intervene, but in a way that still allows people to be a difficult one to talk where. With regard to the facilitation of the focus groups, we will try and make that as independent but as much as it won't be run within service, it will be run probably by the HR and OD service, who whilst I appreciate we're an internal function, we do have a degree of independence and we don't have necessarily the same sort of long-standing bias that might be within services. If we need to bring external facilitation or we've got particular issues or we think there may be aren't going to be able to speak freely as they need to for us to really get to the nub of the issue, then we can certainly look into that.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair. Some of my questions asked by Councillor Ball, but there is one more question now I can ask. Do you monitor the air quality within the building?
Okay, position to respond to that one.
I thought you were just doing the answer. Councillor Bowman, I'm going to do a bit of answer to that one. I have looked.
Absolutely amazing. I was in HR. I was the HR manager for SDS Airlines in my early 30s. I came up with a scheme to reduce sickness. So if you work on the state, you've got a bunch of thousands.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I can't see any indication of any other questions. So at this point, the committee is asked to note this report. So are we agreed to note this report? We want to thank you once again for a very good and meticulous report. And our second recommendation is to determine whether there is any relevant content from this supplementary report that may be included in future annual workforce report. And I think we've come up with quite a few suggestions for that. Yeah, yeah, and maybe we picked up, so, that's great, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Right, if we move on to number 7 on the agenda, and that's the work programme.
Just to remind us, one of the items is the core plan rollout, and we will invite members of the interface to attend.
Thank you, Sean. Item 9, exclusion of press and public. And in fact, it is for this committee to now consider moving into closed session before consideration of item 10 and other reasons that are given in the resolution. Urgent business, I haven't got any, I have not been informed of any, so. Right, so just like you. Right, okay. Right, go ahead, Councillor Robinson, but in future, it's supposed to be told a bit before.
One of our rules is now, so can I speak here for supervisor problems? Because we're just in the budget and lastly, on the first one, so can we have
Well, if you don't have anything like that,
It's, Dr. Robinson, so detailed risk management report to go to the committee.
it's actually one of our functions on the, not our function, but to the risk management.
That's off. I think there's been some duplication of overlap, but those reports are going to audit.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. In view of the fact that we have, as I say, asked this several times, we get this sorted for Councillor Robinson going forward and just clarify what the position is on that.
There's no reason, right, to do it on this committee. A regulation. So I'm sure we can organise that by standards and talk about it. Please don't, we can't do it. Well, there you are. Well,
Okay, if you can move, Councillor Robinson.
that's absolutely correct. So all I'd say is if we could just try and just do it once, so to speak, so the same report, so we're not actually doing different reports with different entities. Just trying to manage it properly. So.
It's more like an overview on how the overview where we are, how
That's not.
Right, that is not the Councillor Robinson will take that forward. So if you go back to item 9, which was the exclusion of press and public, I will move that this committee now goes into closed session. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Robinson? Is everyone agreed? So that is the exclusion of press and public. Now the other members are able to stay.